Okay, let's unpack this. When we talk about digital payment platforms, um, we often focus just on speed and volume, right?
Mhm.
But what's happening right now with UPI India's unified payments interface, it feels like a much bigger strategy. It's not just about high volume anymore.
No, it's really pushing towards, well, what you might call extreme financial inclusion and global integration, too.
Right. It's like an evolution.
Hmm.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into what we're calling UPI's triple threat strategy:
Hmm.
delegation, voice, and this massive global reach.
That phrase, extreme inclusion, I think that nails it. UPI has been successful for a while, sure, but it's definitely not resting on its laurels.
Seems like it.
It's actively identifying barriers and, digital literacy gaps, not having the right phone,
Mm.
even crossing international borders and trying to just tear them down.
And the scale we're talking about here really sets the stage for why these new features matter so much. This isn't small growth we're seeing.
Not at all.
If you look at the figures, I mean, the transactional volume had a staggering 56% year-over-year growth in the last fiscal year,
Yeah.
FY 22-23. That's just wild for a system already this big.
It is astounding. And that growth curve, it's only getting steeper. Projections suggest UPI could grow, what, 4 times over by FY 2026-2027?
4 times.
Yeah, we're rapidly heading towards UPI making up almost 90% of all retail digital payments. And the big number they're aiming for is 1 billion transactions per day.
1 billion a day.
Yeah,
It's hard to even picture that.
it really is. I mean, think about it. That's roughly the daily total volume of several major global credit card networks combined in one country's system.
That kind of scale has to mean a big shift in how people behave, how they pay for things. And what's really interesting in the source material is the change in the type of transactions driving this.
Right.
For years, the story was mostly peer-to-person, P2P.
Right.
Friends sending money back and forth.
Exactly. P2P built the network effect. It got
Yeah.
people comfortable using it. But now the story is really about maturation.
Maturation.
Yeah. In FY 22-23, peer-to-merchant, or P2M, transactions paying businesses, they're actually expected to surpass P2P, hitting something like 52% of the total UPI volume.
Okay, so that's not just a small increase. That's a fundamental shift.
It signifies that UPI has moved beyond just being a convenient way to pay your friends. It's becoming the main engine for retail and commercial payments.
Why do you think that shift happened? What pushed P2M past P2P?
Well, it's a mix of infrastructure and just sheer necessity, really.
Huh.
The huge adoption of QR codes, especially by tiny merchants, tea stalls, street vendors, the small Kirana shops.
Right, places that were cash only before.
Exactly. Suddenly, they could accept digital payments, even for just a few rupees. And as consumers got used to the ease of P2P, they started wanting that same ease everywhere they shopped. Plus, the regulators and banks push really hard to get those small merchants on board.
So the acceptance network hit a critical point.
Right. Once that happened, P2M naturally became the dominant way people used it day to day.
Okay, so UPI is now basically the core infrastructure. So our mission today is to really get a handle on these three big new features that are driving the next phase. We've got UPI Circle for delegated payments. Hello. UPI for voice access, and this big global push.
Mhm.
We need to understand how these are reaching people who maybe weren't using UPI before and how it's crossing borders, all while keeping things secure.
Sounds good. Let's start with that inclusion challenge, maybe. That brings us straight to UPI Circle.
Okay, UPI Circle.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think, especially when you think about families and managing money and trust.
It really is. This concept of delegated payments, it was first launched on the BHI map by MPCI, and it's
Okay.
fundamentally designed to, well, fill those gaps left by maybe lack of digital literacy or just discomfort with tech.
Or simply the fact that not everyone in a household has their own bank account, right? Like
Yeah.
kids or maybe elderly parents.
Exactly. It's a direct acknowledgement of how money actually works in many households. Think about all the people, children, older relatives who are maybe hesitant about apps, or even domestic staff who often rely completely on cash because they aren't the primary account holder.
Yeah, they're kind of locked out of the digital system.
Right. UPI Circle aims to change that by creating a formal but trusted way to give them delegated access.
So walk us through the definition. What is UPI Circle exactly? Who's involved?
Okay, so UPI Circle basically sets up a formal link. You have a primary user, that's the person whose bank account it is,
Got it.
and they authorize a secondary user to make UPI payments on their behalf. Now, the really key part for inclusion is that this secondary user doesn't need to have their own bank account.
Okay. That's the crucial bit.
It is. So this structure brings people who were previously excluded right into the digital payment world, but securely, using the backing and ultimately the financial responsibility of the main account holder.
But, okay, giving someone else access to your bank account connection, that sounds risky on the surface. How does UPI Circle manage that? How does the primary user set it up and, keep control?
That's central to the whole design, security and control. So to start the delegation, the primary user goes into their UPI app, finds the UPI Circle section, picks the secondary user, usually from their contacts, and then they have to authorize that link. This always requires their main UPI PIN and sometimes maybe an OTP, a one-time password as well. So it's a deliberate action.
Okay, so the link is set up securely. What happens then? What choices does the primary user have for controlling the actual spending?
They get two pretty flexible modes. The first one is for maximum oversight. It's called transaction by transaction approval.
Okay.
With this, if the secondary user tries to make a payment, it gets paused. The primary user gets a notification and has to physically enter their UPI PIN for every single transaction before it goes through.
Right. That sounds useful for maybe bigger purchases or if you want really tight control, like with a kid, perhaps.
Exactly. But you can see how that might get annoying for small, everyday things, right? It adds friction.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the convenience if you have to approve every 5 rupee purchase.
Precisely. So that's where the second mode comes in. This one offers efficiency for those frequent, low-value payments. It's predefined spending limits.
Oh, okay. So you set a budget.
Exactly. The primary user sets a specific limit, maybe, say, 500 rupees a day or 2,000 rupees a week, whatever makes sense. They can adjust this limit anytime.
Right.
And once that limit is set, the secondary user can make payments autonomously up to that amount. No need for the primary user to approve each individual transaction immediately.
How easy is it to change that limit? And do you get alerts? Like if
Yeah.
the secondary user is getting close to the limit?
The sources say the limits are dynamic. The primary user can change them instantly in their app. And yes, the system is built to provide real-time alerts or notifications about spending, so you always know what's happening. And critically, the primary user can also revoke the entire delegation access instantly. That's the ultimate safety switch.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's talk practical uses. How does this actually help in real life? Getting rid of petty cash, maybe? Increasing accountability?
Oh, absolutely. Take household management. Before UPI Circle, maybe a working couple needed their domestic help to buy groceries. They'd hand over cash.
And then try to figure out the change, what was spent where.
Exactly. Lots of hassle, zero transparency. Now, they could set, say, a 2,000 weekly limit for essentials. The helper pays digitally using their delegated access. The primary user gets an instant digital record merchant, name, amount, time, verifiable.
Yeah, I could see that being useful. Or for family oversight, like we mentioned, instead of giving a teen a debit card, which feels riskier.
Much higher risk. Here, you delegate specific limited spending power. It contains the risk.
Right.
And think about elderly support. Lots of seniors have bank accounts but are just hesitant about mobile banking apps. Maybe they fear scams. They could authorize a trusted family member, maybe a caregiver, or their adult child to handle routine payments like utility bills or maybe subscription renewals remotely. It gives the senior more independence without forcing them to use tech they're uncomfortable with.
That's a great point. And the sources also mentioned business accountability. How does that work?
This could be really big for small businesses, SMEs. Imagine a small logistics firm or maybe a car rental owner. They usually give drivers cash floats for fuel or minor repairs, right?
Yeah, always dealing with receipts or lack thereof.
And potential misuse. With UPI Circle, the owner could set a daily limit for each driver. The driver pays for fuel digitally via their delegated access. The transaction is instantly logged against the owner's account. It links the expense directly to the business books. No more messy cash flows.
Okay, this is starting to sound like more than just convenience. It feels like it could be a systemic change, especially for what the sources call thin file users, people without much credit history.
This is potentially the most significant long-term impact. Think about those individuals who were financially sort of invisible before stay-at-home parents, dependents, maybe temporary workers whose money was all handled in cash.
Right, they didn't have their own formal transaction history.
Exactly. But now, even though they're acting as secondary users, their spending activity is being digitized. It's becoming formalized because it's tracked.
Because those delegated payments are verifiably linked back to the primary user's account.
Yeah.
It creates a data trail.
Precisely. The traditional financial system looked for things like collateral, income slips, long bank statements. Now, these patterns of delegated spending, regular buys for food, utilities, transport, become verifiable digital data points.
Data that financial institutions could potentially use.
That's the idea. It could be used to assess a basic level of financial responsibility, maybe even creditworthiness down the line.
So we're not talking about getting a mortgage straight away, obviously.
No, no, but maybe it opens the door to microcredit
Hmm.
or small financial products. It builds a foundation for embedded finance.
How might that actually look?
Well, maybe a bank sees 6 months of consistent, responsible spending via a secondary user profile. That data might suggest predictability. Perhaps that could unlock access to a very small micro investment plan, or maybe financing for something simple like a fridge or a scooter, based on that digital payment history, not traditional requirements.
So UPI Circle is essentially taking existing social trust, like between family members, and structuring it into data that the financial system can understand.
That's a great way to put it. It's building a kind of financial citizenship for millions, just through a safe delegation mechanism that really could accelerate financial inclusion in a big way.
Okay, so if UPI Circle tackles the issue of access for people maybe without their own accounts, what's next? The sources talk about, hello, UPI tackling a different barrier, hardware and maybe digital literacy.
Exactly. NPCI recognized that even with UPI's huge reach, there was still this massive group. Estimates are around 400 million feature phone users in India.
Wow, 400 million. That's huge.
It is. And they were largely excluded because, well, they didn't have smartphones or maybe reliable internet.
So how do you bring a sophisticated digital payment system like UPI to someone who just has a basic phone with number keys?
You have to remove the visual interface, basically. Make it conversational. That's what Hello UPI does. It launched September 2023. It's a voice-enabled payment feature.
Voice-enabled, so you talk to it.
Essentially, yes. It blends the familiarity of just having a conversation with the power of UPI, makes it feel more natural, less intimidating, perhaps.
So instead of tapping through an app, finding the right menu, typing numbers,
Yeah.
you just speak the command.
That's the core idea. And the really clever part, I think, is that they built it with two distinct channels to reach as many people as possible. It covers both smartphone users who want convenience and those feature phone users who just need the basic function.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first one? For smartphone users.
That's the in-app mode. This is for people who already have a smartphone and internet. Here, you use voice commands for hands-free navigation within your existing UPI app.
So like pay Bob 500 rupees.
Exactly. Or scan QR code, or show me my balance. You speak the command, the app processes it using voice recognition, and it jumps you straight to the confirmation or the PIN entry screen. It just removes a few taps, makes it quicker.
Okay, that's a nice convenience feature for existing users.
Yeah.
But the real breakthrough must be the solution for those millions using basic phones, often in places with poor internet.
That's the on-call mode. And yes, this is the potential game changer. It works without needing any data connection or a smartphone app at all.
No data. How?
It uses a standard phone call. Users dial a specific Hello UPI number that connects them to an IVR system interactive voice response.
Ah, like when you call your bank or airline, the automated voice menu?
Precisely. But this IVR is designed to understand payment commands. You complete the transaction through guided voice instructions. You might say, I want to pay mobile number, or check my account balance.
So that automated system we're all familiar with is now processing actual payment instructions. That's a huge leap for accessibility. All you need is a working phone line.
Exactly. It makes UPI truly device agnostic. It works on smartphones, basic feature phones, and they envision it on IoT devices eventually too. And crucially, to handle India's linguistic diversity, while it started with Hindi and English, NPCI has very clear plans to add more regional Indian languages quickly.
Okay, the tech challenge here sounds significant. Getting voice recognition to work reliably over a potentially crackly phone line with different accents, background noise, that's much harder than inside a controlled app environment, surely.
Oh, absolutely. This is where a lot of AI and machine learning comes in. The system uses sophisticated natural language processing models. They've had to train them specifically on reverse Indian accents and, typical background noise you might get on a call.
And how does it make sure it understood correctly? You don't want it sending money to the wrong person.
Right. Accuracy and security are paramount. So the IVR system is designed to ask clarifying questions. It will repeat the recipient's name or number and the amount back to the user. I heard you want to pay name number 500 rupees. Is this correct? Say yes or no.
Okay, so there are checks and balances built in.
Yes, it's a deliberate process, prioritizing accuracy over maybe lightning speed, especially in this on-call mode.
Can we walk through an example? Say a feature phone user wants to pay their electricity bill. Maybe it's 800 rupees.
Sure. So the user dials the dedicated Hello UPI number. The IVR answers, probably says, Welcome to Hello UPI or something. The user might say, Pay bill.
Okay.
The system might respond, Okay, which biller? User says, Electricity Board XYZ. System. Got it. What is the amount? User. 800 rupees.
And the confirmation.
Yes, the IVR would say something like, Okay, I have pay electricity board XYZ amount 800 rupees. Is this correct? User confirms yes. Then comes the critical part. The system says, Please enter your 4-digit UPI PIN using your phone's keypad now.
Ah, so the final authorization, the PI, is not spoken. It's entered on the keypad.
Correct. That is the absolute anchor for security here. MPCI is very clear. All the standard UPI security rules still apply. The method of initiating the transaction changes to voice, but the authentication, the PIN entry, remains a keypad action.
That makes sense. It prevents someone trying to trick the system with a recording of your voice or something like that.
Exactly. It protects against voice mimicry for that final crucial step.
Okay. What about transaction limits for this on-call mode, given it's maybe aimed at more vulnerable users, or the tech is different? Are the limits lower?
Yes, they are significantly restricted purely for safety. While the regular in-app voice commands follow the standard UPI limits up to 1 lakh rupees.
Right.
The on-call mode is strictly designed for smaller payments, microtransactions really. It's capped at a maximum of 1,000 per transaction.
Only 1,000 rupees. Okay.
And there's another limit. Users can only make a maximum of 5 transactions per day using this on-call method.
5 transactions, max 1,000 rupees each. That provides important context.
It does. It means the mode is genuinely useful for everyday small payments. But the low limit ensures that even if something went wrong, a misunderstanding, or maybe even coercion, the potential financial loss is strictly contained. It makes it a much safer entry point into digital payments for potentially vulnerable users.
Yeah. Hello. UPI really does feel like it's democratizing access in a very fundamental way.
So we've covered inclusion for dependents with UPI Circle and accessibility for feature phone users with Hello UPI. The third big pillar of this strategy is taking UPI global, aggressively expanding its footprint internationally.
Right. Creating seamless ways for people to pay across borders, whether they're traveling or doing business.
Exactly. And this involves creating solutions for 2 quite different groups, which you need to distinguish.
Okay, who are the 2 groups?
First, you have the Indian resident who is traveling outside India. Second, you have the foreign traveler who is coming into India. The platform needs to cater to both.
Got it. So let's start with the Indian traveler going abroad. How do they use UPI in, say, France or the UAE?
For them, the solution is typically called UPI Global or UPI International. They need to activate this feature within their regular banking or UPI app before they travel, or maybe while they're abroad if they have connectivity.
Okay, activate a feature. What does that do?
It essentially links their Indian bank account to the service specifically for making foreign currency payments.
And once that's activated, how does it work on the ground? They see a QR code?
Yes, they look for merchants displaying either a BHIM UPI QR code or, more likely, a QR code from a partner network that has integrated with UPI in that country. They scan it just like they would in India.
What happens then? The currency conversion must be key.
It's absolutely critical. When they scan the code, their app performs a real-time currency conversion. And this is important. The app must display the total cost clearly in both currencies. So it'll show the amount in, say, euros or dirhams, and the equivalent amount in Indian rupees, INR, that will be debited from their account.
Ah, so you see the final INR cost before you approve the payment. No surprises later on your bank statement.
Exactly. That transparency is mandated. It should also clearly show any applicable exchange rate, margin, or fees. Only after the user sees and accepts that final INR amount do they enter their UPI PI to authorize the payment.
Okay, that sounds pretty straightforward and secure for Indians traveling out. Now let's flip it. What about the foreign tourist visiting India? They often face hassles, right? Getting a local SIM maybe, dealing with money changers, carrying cash.
It can be a real pain point for tourists, and that's where the dedicated solution called UPI One World comes in. This was specifically designed by NPCI to make digital payments easy for international visitors while they are in India.
UPI One World. Who is this for specifically?
Initially, it's targeted at foreign nationals and also non-resident Indians, NRIs, particularly those coming from G20 countries.
Okay. And how does it work? Does it link to their bank account Back home, that sounds complicated from a regulatory perspective.
It does. So they deliberately avoided trying to link foreign bank accounts directly to UPI. That would be a regulatory minefield. Instead, the mechanism uses something called a prepaid payment instrument, or a PPI wallet.
A PPI wallet, like a prepaid debit card almost.
Sort of, yes. Think of it like a temporary digital rupee wallet. When the visitor arrives in India, maybe at the airport, they go to an authorized PPI issuer, could be a bank kiosk or a designated money exchange counter.
Right.
They load Indian rupees, INR, onto the specialized PPI wallet. That wallet is then linked to the UPI system.
So they're not using their foreign account directly. They're using this preloaded rupee wallet that sits on the UPI network. How do they set it up? Say I'm a tourist arriving from a G20 country.
Okay, so step one. You land, you find the designated UPI One World PPI issuer desk. Step two, you do a quick KYC, know your customer check. For this, it's simplified. They usually just need your passport and a valid Indian visa. It's done on the spot.
Quick KYC. Okay.
Step three, you give them foreign currency or maybe use your international card to buy INR. That amount is immediately loaded onto your new PPI wallet, which gets linked to your mobile number, could be your international number. Step four, they give you instructions, probably an app to download or a specific USSD code, on how to use this wallet to scan and pay at any UPI merchant in India.
Using the balance you just loaded.
Exactly.
Wow. That sounds like a massive improvement for tourists. No need for loads of cash, no multiple exchange fees on every little purchase.
It really aims to make their payment experience seamless. They can pay for a taxi, a coffee, a souvenir at a small shop, all using UPI, just like a local, drawing from their preloaded rupee balance. Cashless and convenient.
The global rollout seems incredibly fast. What's the scorecard look like now, say, as of 2025, based on the sources? Which countries are officially on board?
The expansion has been quite strategic. Bhutan was the very first international adopter back in 2021. Then a major milestone was France in 2023. Getting acceptance there, even at iconic places like the Eiffel Tower, was huge for visibility and prestige, moving beyond just diaspora markets.
Right, a major European economy. Where else is it well established?
We're seeing strong adoption, particularly in the Middle East and parts of Asia. The UAE is a big one, acceptance reported at over 60,000 outlets, covering major malls, airports. Singapore is fully integrated with its local system, PayNow.
Okay.
Then you have Sri Lanka, Nepal, where it's integrated via their PhonePe network. Qatar, specifically mentioned as having it across the big Lulu hypermarket chain as of late 2025. Also Mauritius, Oman, Cyprus, and Malaysia.
That's quite a list already. It seems like a mixed neighboring countries, regions with lots of Indian workers or tourists.
It does seem like a blend, often starting where there's a strong economic link remittances, tourism, which then requires regulatory alignment. But in places like Europe, the strategy is also about integrating UPI into existing payment systems.
How so?
Well, there are active talks with Worldline SA, a big European payment processor. The goal is to let merchants in countries like Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Switzerland just accept UPI alongside Visa, MasterCard, etc. Makes it easier for them.
And what about the U.S.? That's the big one. Any movement there?
The U.S. market is obviously very different, very competitive. But yes, the sources mention ongoing discussions. They're exploring a payment corridor between UPI and a U.S. system called Immediate Cross-Border, or IXB.
So not necessarily for everyday shopping in the U.S. yet.
Probably not initially. It sounds more focused on easing cross-border money transfers and remittances, which would be a huge benefit for the large Indian diaspora in the U.S.
Makes sense. What other countries are on the radar? Where might we see UPI next?
India seems very proactive. They're looking at more partnerships across Asia, Thailand, specifically integrating with their prompt pay system, Japan, the Philippines. Also active discussions mentioned with Australia, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and New Zealand.
So the long-term vision is pretty clear.
Yeah, it seems to be building a massive global acceptance network, not just for UPI, but also for India's domestic card scheme, RuPay, making it easy for Indian travelers abroad and for the nearly 20 million NRIs living outside India. UPI wants to be a global payment standard, not just a domestic success story.
Okay, so we've got delegation bringing new users in, voice commands making it accessible, global expansion. With all this rapid innovation and increasing complexity, security becomes even more critical, right?
Absolutely. We have to talk about vigilance. UPI's convenience is fantastic, but that ease of use requires real security awareness, especially for those newer or maybe more vulnerable users coming in through things like UPI Circle or, hello, UPI.
This feels like a really important section. The tech might be secure, but scams often target the user, not the system itself.
That's exactly right. The user is often the weakest link, unfortunately, especially when faced with clever social engineering scams.
So let's start with the absolute bedrock. The number one must-know security rule for every single UPI user. What is it?
It's incredibly simple, but people forget it in the moment. A PIN is for paying, not receiving. Let me repeat that. Your UPI PIN is only ever needed to authorize money leaving your account.
Never to receive money.
Never. If anyone asks you to enter your UPI PIN or an OTP or any sensitive details so that they can send you money, it is a scam. Guaranteed. 100% of the time. That is the single biggest vulnerability fraudsters prey on.
Okay, that's crystal clear. Let's maybe slow down and walk through some common scams the sources highlight. Understanding how they work is probably the best defense. What about phishing and vishing?
Right. Phishing is usually via fake emails or text messages. Vishing is the voice version scams over phone calls. The core tactic is always impersonation.
They pretend to be someone official.
Exactly. They might call you claiming to be from your bank, maybe a credit card company, even NPCI itself, or calling about some government benefit. They'll create a sense of urgency. Your account is blocked, your KYC needs updating right now, you've won a prize but need to pay a fee. They sound very professional, very convincing.
And their goal is to get
Your credentials. Specifically, your UPI PIN, maybe your debit card number and CVV, or the OTPs that get sent to your phone. Sometimes they might even try to trick you into installing a screen sharing app.
why a screen sharing app.
So they can literally watch your screen as you type in your PI or OTP. It's incredibly sneaky. The defense. Simple. Your bank, NPCI, the government, they will never call you and ask for your PIN or OTP. If you get a call like that, hang up. If you're worried, call your bank back using the official number from their website or your card.
Okay, never give out PINs or OTPs over the phone. What about the fake request scam? This one sounds particularly devious because you might actually be expecting money.
It is devious. It plays entirely on your expectation and maybe a moment of carelessness. Let's say you're selling something online, maybe an old phone for $5,000. The buyer says, great, I'll pay you now via UPI.
Okay, so I'm waiting for 5,000 rupees to come in.
Right. But the scammer doesn't send you money. Instead, they use the UPI feature called Collect Request or Request Money. They send you a request for $5,000.
Oh, does that look like on my phone?
A notification pops up. It will look very similar to a payment notification, but it's actually asking you to approve a payment request from the scammer for $5,000. Because you're expecting that exact amount, your brain might just see $5,000 and assume it's money coming in.
Oh, I see.
If you quickly tap approve or pay and then enter your UPI PIN because you think you're maybe confirming receipt, you've just authorized a payment of $5,050 from your account to the scammer's account.
Wow. They exploit the similarity in the interface prompts.
Exactly. It's a psychological trick. Always, always read the notification carefully. Does it say sending, paying, or requesting? Big difference.
That's a really important distinction. What about scams in the physical world, like fake QR codes?
This can happen especially at smaller shops or street vendor stalls. A scammer might cleverly paste their own QR code sticker over the merchant's legitimate one, or maybe stick a fake one right next to the real one.
So when I scan it,
When you scan the fake code and make the payment, the money goes directly to the scammer's UPI ID, not the shopkeeper you intended to pay.
how do you guard against that?
Before you enter your PI, always double-check the name of the recipient that pops up on your UPI app screen. Does it match the name of the shop or the person you expect to pay? If it looks like a random individual's name or something suspicious, stop the transaction, ask the merchant to confirm their QR code.
Okay, so vigilance at every step. What are the absolute essential safety habits we should all follow?
Number 1, verification. Every single time. Just take those extra 3 seconds, check the recipient's name, check their UPI ID if possible, and double-check the amount before you hit pay and enter your PI.
Verify, verify, verify. Got it. What else?
Number 2, source protection. Only download UPI apps or any banking apps from the official app stores, Google Play for Android, Apple App Store for iOS, never from random links or third-party sites. And try to avoid using public or unsecured Wi-Fi networks for financial transactions if you can.
Good point on Wi-Fi. And the third thing,
Reinforce that information integrity. Never, ever share your UPI, PIN, your OTPs, your account passwords, or other sensitive details with anyone, not friends, not family, and certainly not someone claiming to be from the bank or customer support. They don't need it.
okay, verify, protect your source, protect your info. Got it. Let's switch slightly and talk about the standard UPI transaction limits. Understanding these is useful for planning, but they also act as a kind of safety net, right? Limiting potential damage.
Exactly. The limits provide a ceiling on how much can be moved in a single transaction or over a day. What's the standard daily cap for most people?
For most regular retail and P2P transactions, the standard daily limit set by MBCI is 1 alien thousand party, 1 lakh rupees.
Okay, 1 lakh per day. Is there a limit on the number of transactions too?
Yes, that 1 lakh can be spread across a maximum of 20 transactions within that 24-hour period. Now, it's really important for listeners to know your individual bank might set lower limits than this based on their own risk policies or maybe your specific account type. So always check with your bank if you're unsure about your personal limit.
That's a key point. Bank limits can be lower. What about the limit per single transaction for standard payments?
For most everyday payments, the per transaction cap is also 1 million thousand, same as the daily limit.
Okay, but the sources mentioned there are exceptions, specific categories where you can send more in one go.
Yes. The system recognizes that some specific, usually regulated financial activities need higher ceilings to be practical.
Like what, for instance?
The limit increases to 2 million thousand per transaction for a few specific things. Payments related to capital markets, think buying mutual funds or stocks via UPI perhaps. Also for paying insurance premiums and for government collections like paying taxes or certain official fees.
Right. Those often involve larger sums, so a 2 lakh limit makes sense there.
Exactly, it just facilitates those necessary structured payments.
And is there an even higher limit? What's the absolute maximum you can send via UPI in one go?
The highest cap mentioned is 5,000 per transaction, 5 lakh rupees. But this applies only to 2 very specific, highly regulated use cases. Which first, for IPO applications when you're subscribing to initial public offerings of shares. Second, for investments made to the RBI Retail Direct Scheme, which lets individuals buy government securities directly.
Okay, so very specialized channels dealing with large investment sums under strict regulatory oversight, not for everyday payments.
Precisely. Those higher limits facilitate specific financial market activities.
That detailed breakdown of limits is really helpful. Finally, if someone
You can usually find the official Digisathi contact details or a link within your bank's official app or on the official NPCI website. Use those trusted sources. Basically, stay informed, stay alert, and use the official channels if you need help. Well, this deep dive has definitely shown that UPI is playing a much bigger game now. It's really moved beyond just being about instant transfers.
It really has. It's aggressively chasing inclusion, using UPI Circle for delegated payments to bring independence, using, UPI's voice tech to break down hardware and literacy barriers. And at the exact same time, it's driving this powerful globalization effort, solving those tricky cross-border payment issues for travelers with UPI One World, and pushing hard to get UPI accepted in more and more countries.
It feels like the next stage isn't just about growing volume anymore. It's about ensuring control, maintaining security, and making sure literally everyone can access it, from someone with a basic phone in a village to a tourist visiting Mumbai.
That seems to be the focus. Control, security, accessibility for every demographic.
And maybe the most profound takeaway, the thing that could really reshape things long-term, is what you mentioned earlier about the thin file users.
Right.
All these new features, Circle, Hello, UPI, they're enabling digital transactions for millions who were previously outside the formal system. And every single one of those transactions, even tiny ones.
Creates a data point, a formal, verifiable digital footprint where none existed before.
Exactly. And that data foundation, that's the truly transformative part. So here's the final thought for you to ponder. If UPI keeps expanding access like this, building this detailed digital transaction history for millions of people who were previously invisible to the financial system, what kind of seismic shifts could that unlock? Think about India's credit market, lending, embedded finance. What happens when you suddenly have reliable data on millions more potential customers? And it may be just as interesting, how quickly will other countries try to replicate this kind of state-backed financial infrastructure to catch up?
That data really is the new oil, isn't it? Or perhaps the new rails for the economy. It fundamentally changes the landscape of financial services.
A powerful thought indeed. Thank you for walking us through UPI's really quite monumental strategy today.
My pleasure. It's certainly a space to watch closely.